Hi everyone, Matthew Donovan here. Today is day 89 of my learning Czech. Tomorrow marks 90 days. I misspoke in my last video. It's been a few weeks since my last video, but I misspoke in my last video. I was talking about 100 days, which is coming up in just about a week and a half. It'll be on a Sunday. Still not quite sure what I have planned for that day. My lessons have run out on italki. I'm in the process of booking more, just trying to pick the times that work best for me. I apologize if I'm talking too slowly in this video. I just uploaded my March resolutions update yesterday, and listening to that I noticed I've been speaking, or I was speaking very quickly. So I'm making a conscious effort to tone this down. Partly my problem is I've been listening to podcasts recently, and normally I'll listen to those at 1.4, 1.5, sometimes 1.6 times the normal speed. So the people are speaking very quickly. I think that's coming out when I'm listening to this. I'm just thinking and rambling off, causing me to speak a little bit more quickly, but I'd rather speak ever so slightly more slowly. Hopefully it comes across. So, as I said, 89 days. Tomorrow will be 90 days. I have a function tomorrow, so I won't be able to upload a video on 90 days, but it's been great progress so far. I talked about this in my March update, my March resolutions update. Incredible progress that I've made in the first 90 days. I'm just thrilled with the amount of progress that I've been able to make. One of the major things I've been doing is reading on link. I found this story. It's about 5 pages long. Now, it's debatable what is on a page, and just saying that it's tough to communicate to you, but the audio track to accompany it is 10 minutes long. It is slow, and there are lots of pauses, but the audio track is 10 minutes long. I've been listening to that almost every day, sometimes twice a day. I've probably listened to it 7 times, 8 times over this past week. Every time I listen to it, I understand a little bit more. When I started off, I was reading through it, and the audio was an afterthought. At this point, I listen to the audio first. Every once in a while, there's a sentence that I don't grasp, then I go and look it up. But what was exciting for me was when I was reading through this, there's a lot of it I understood right away. Now, I picked out a paragraph here that I want to read, just to highlight some speaking, some of my pronunciation abilities, but also just to translate and give you a rough idea of what I'm able to understand. So I have that picked out here, just on my computer screen over here. So it says, Mluvite česky, zatím mluvím málo. Učím se. Mluvite už dobře. Promiňte, nerozumím. Helena neštěstí mluví rusky. Je překladatelka. Děkuji, pane Novaku. Ano, prosím. Vy umíte rusky? Ano, umím dobře rusky. Tomasi, vy taky mluvíte rusky? Ne, rusky neumím. Mluvím jen česky a německy. Now, that was a bunch of people talking back and forth, but just to translate what that means, and again, I'm just reading off the Czech version here, I don't have the English version written down anywhere. So Helena starts off by asking, do you speak Czech? At this point, I speak a little, but I'm learning. You speak well. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Now, another person comes in and says, Helena, fortunately, speaks Russian. She can translate. She is a translator, she can translate. Another person says, thank you. Mr. Novaku, who says, yes? What's going on? Do you know Russian? Yes. I know Russian well. Now another lady says, Thomas, do you also speak Russian? Thomas says, no, Russian I don't know. I only speak Czech and German. So again, it's a rough translation. It is a basic paragraph, basic words that are being used, basic languages, but for me, the first time I read through this, I picked it out, probably 90-95% of it, without having to look things up. So that was just a great experience to be able to do that. I listen to it. It just helps with the comprehension. I'm also going to radio.cz, Radio Praha, and listen to some articles there, read the articles there. I find that's very, very complicated for me, especially at this time. The biggest issue is that I don't know the words. I find this as well when I'm speaking with my tutors, which I still try to do about once a week on italki, is I'll be rambling off in a sentence and then I get stuck because I don't know the word. And it's not a matter of I've heard the word, but I don't know what it is. For example, I might want to say, I am eating steak for dinner, right? I don't even remember how to say I eat. I don't think I've ever said that. So that would be the first issue. But let's say I have steak, right? Mam is I have, but I don't know what the word is for steak. So at this point I get stuck. The biggest issue is I need to know these words. So reading through these stories, that's just helping me with the words. I'm taking an interesting approach. I'm not focusing on memorizing. I'm simply reading through. Every time I see the words, the first time I see them, I make that connection. It's called a link. The word shows up in blue, which means I've never seen it before. I click on it. I'm able to find the translation I like or add my own. Once I do that, the connection is made in their system. Every time I see that word from that point forward, it's highlighted in yellow. Every time I see it, if I understand, if I remember what it is, there are 4 different scales of yellow, and I can work my way through them. Once I reach that 4th scale, the word becomes white. There's no highlighting at all, and when I see a white word in a story, it means I know what this word is. When I see a word that's yellow, it means I've seen it before, but I might not necessarily remember what it is. So I'm focusing largely on the practice of seeing these words. If they're important enough, I'll see them many times in context, and eventually I'll learn them that way. I'm not sitting down with a word list trying to memorize each and every word. That's what I was doing with German. When I was working through on Duolingo, every single lesson, every single activity was a different style of word. There was one activity, one lesson focused on animals. Schwein, Kuh, Hund, pig, cow, dog, things like that. Hähnchen, chicken. And I would go through and try and memorize every single word before I moved on to the next lesson. That's not what I'm doing in Czech. I'm just reading through. I read through these stories daily. Sometimes I take a bit of a break, listen to different ones, read different things. I found some videos on YouTube. I'm also listening to those with the audio coming up on the screen just to change up how I get the input, what the input is that I'm listening to, what that content is. But I'm not focusing on memorizing individual words. I'm sure there will be a whole bunch of words that I will have seen once or twice that I don't memorize, but at the same time, the words that I see often will be the words that I learn. That's the update on how things are going for me in terms of my studying, in terms of my practicing. I'm definitely seeing a huge improvement. I think the vocabulary that I have now, according to Link, I have about 400 or 500 saved words that I know. Obviously, I think there are other verb conjugations that I may know that I haven't come across. I'm still at the basic lessons. But I have said other things, say in conversation. Obviously, numbers I know a lot more of. And the other thing with Link is, for example, to speak. I speak is mluvím, you speak mluvíš or mluvíte, he speaks is mluví. All of those show up as different words. So the number of words that I actually know, who knows? This statistic on Link I think is useful to help track progress. At this point, I'm at about 400 words that are known. If at next week, the week after, in a few weeks, I'm at 500, 600, 700, I'll be able to see that I've been making progress. Now, I'm also able to make connections, right? That 400 words is only the words that I know that don't have a highlighted background. The other words that I've seen a couple times, made those connections, that I'm in the process of learning, and these are words or phrases. They don't necessarily have to be words. The words that I'm in the process of learning don't show up there. So that's a separate statistic of the number of links that I currently have active. Again, all these different statistics, I don't know if they're meaningful at all. I might have 10,000 links, someone else might have 5,000, but their links might be more meaningful, or they might know them better. Who's to say I'm any better simply because I have a higher number? I don't think that's relevant. It is relevant, I think, to keep you motivated, keep progressing through the site. You see these numbers increasing, you know you're doing work, you know you're doing something. As long as you believe in the system, as long as you believe in the method, I think you'll make greater strides, you'll work towards your goal. But that's how things have been going for Czech. I can't believe it's been 90 days since I've started. On one hand, it seems like just the other day when I first started. I can definitely imagine a time when I knew no Czech at all. So it's interesting to think that it's been 90 days since that point. It seems like it was just the other day. But on the other hand, 90 days seems like a very long time. There's a lot of things that I've been taking in. I most definitely have not been working on this every single day, but I would say there's been at least 70 days out of the 90. I'm at, what did I say, day 89 here. So I'd say about 70 days, probably somewhere close to that, is the number of days I've spent at some point or another focusing on Czech for at least 15 or 20 minutes. Great progress, great amount of time I put in. I've probably only put in about 30, 40 hours at this point. But I've made great progress, great to see how things are going. I'm excited to see how things go. I've been thinking about this. I don't want to give up Czech when I hit 100 days, 120 days, something like that. I'm simply not at that point. I think I could spend another 3 or 4 months, make great progress in the language, be able to read a lot more. That's where I'm hoping to get to. I did buy a few other language books for other languages, but I don't know when I'll start reading that, when I'll start focusing on that. I'm hoping within a month I can probably get to the point where I can listen to an audiobook, I can listen to the news, pick up bits and pieces. I think once I get to about 40 or 50% understanding, I'll be able to understand more simply by experiencing it. At this point, listening to this text, hearing and understanding 10% of it isn't useful to me. I can't parse the other bits, I don't learn from that. But when I get to this point where I understand a good 40, 50, maybe 60%, I'll be able to switch to more passive input methods. I can listen while I'm commuting to work, driving to school, things like that. I can listen while I'm down running, I can listen while I'm doing the dishes or all these other tasks, and I'll still be learning the language. And whenever I get to that point, I think that's when I'm going to switch, start working on another language. There'll be 2 different types of input. The passive listening or reading that will hopefully be an enjoyment. I can find articles that I enjoy, and listening to them will be just like listening to content in English, just like listening to podcasts in English, which is what I'm doing right now. I find that very enjoyable. When I'm at that level in Czech, listening and furthering my knowledge, building my vocabulary, won't be a learning, it will still be a learning activity, but it won't be a chore, it won't be something that I need to do to block out time. I can block out the time, sit down on my computer, and learn another language. But I'm looking forward, which I think is a good way to look, better than looking back, most definitely. But I think the most important thing is just to live in the present, focus on that. I've made this video. As this is uploading, I'm going to spend another half hour at the minimum reading through, learning more vocabulary, building more words, listening comprehension. These are all very important things. Thanks for the update. I know I'd said I might do something special for 90. That's not going to happen. The 100th day will be on a Sunday. I'm planning on putting out a big video for 100. Maybe I'll speak to someone. Maybe I'll just rattle off to the camera. Who knows? But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.